get in.
There's some things I just can't tell you on air, but what is true, and I'm actually being serious here, is that there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory.
Yes, you guys! Former President Obama is all but confirming the existence of UFOs with greater maneuverability and speed than anything that exists in the U.S. military, and he says they must be taken seriously. His comments come days after a Navy fighter pilot revealed airmen have seen unknown aircraft off the Virginia coast every day for 2 years. And this comes ahead of an expected report from the Pentagon on unexplained sightings that one former official says will, quote, shock people. Okay, Juan, I have to start with you because you've been subjected to me talking to you about this for so long. You know I am all in. I love this so much. Even going back to Buzz Aldrin, who said the probability of extraterrestrial life is, quote, almost certain. Everything from naval fighter pilots to Avi Loeb and so many more. Tell me you're in too.
Yeah, why not? It's so much fun. You know, I think that Americans love this story. This is a story that could bring us together. I mean, really, I don't care what your politics are. Everybody's interested. Everybody's fascinated by it. If there was ever a reason to build a wall, this is it. I mean, if there was ever a reason to go with,
wow, news alert.
President...
You know they come from space.
Yeah,
right?
President Reagan. Remember President Reagan's Star Wars program that was to defend us against countries that would fire missiles at the USA? Well, we could build now Star Wars to protect us against the aliens. So I'm all in. I agree, Emily. This is fascinating. I don't know how real it is because there's lots of things that could be unidentified that wouldn't be aliens. But boy, would it be fun to meet some.
Oh, yeah. And Jillian, look, I assume they're all friendly. With your Nat security background, now, we know, of course, declassified programs like the Air Force's 1794, they're saucer-shaped, supersonic, but there's so much more. And tell me you think it's real, too.
So what I will say is you don't need me to say anything here. For Americans who have not been paying attention to this issue, Emily, the jig is up. We now have former presidents, former directors of national intelligence, to Republican and Democrat presidents, members of Congress, senior members of Congress saying this is a real threat. Now, what remains to be seen and what nobody can tell us right now is whether these are objects that are believed to be, who's behind them, right? Is it foreign life sources on other planets, or is it just America's adversaries and enemies developing technology faster than we're aware of? We don't know that yet, but as an example of how seriously the government is now taking this, in August, Emily, the Pentagon reacted their UFO task force. They call them UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. So they don't call them UFOs, but this is real.
It is so real. And Kaylee, to Jillian's point, all you have to do is listen to Joe Rogan's podcast with Bob Lazar to know exactly how long the military has been knowing about this and incorporating civilians. So give us your West Wing insider info.
Oh, I don't have any for you. That's too classified. But I do have a few news. I do have a few news alerts. One agreed to building a wall, be it in space potentially.
I know it makes no sense, but whatever.
New headline.
News alert number 2. We can never agree on anything from a bipartisan perspective, but you've got Obama and John Ratcliffe, who was Trump's director of national intelligence, coming to a bipartisan consensus on UFOs, much to Emily's excitement. But look, for there being UFOs, we aren't really worried. We should be a little more worried, I think, than Emily is.
We have no idea if they're going to be friendly. I'll just end with this. My mother was convinced when I was in college that I was dating some UFO writers. People who landed here for other ones.
I love that.
I've been a believer a long time, apparently.
Probably a lot of women, moms have that in common, right, when their daughters date. Okay.
This UFO video does not show a pyramid. There's a triangle shape, but that looks exactly like an effect caused by a bright light being out of focus and a night vision camera with a triangular iris like this one. Or a triangular lens cover like this one. This effect is known as bokeh. It's also probably a plane because it blinks in the same pattern as a Boeing 737, and the ship, the USS Russell, was directly under the route for planes flying into Los Angeles from Hawaii and Asia. There are a couple more triangles in the scene. Those are probably stars, because they look exactly like stars taken with a night vision camera out of focus with a triangular iris. There's some bright lights at the start of the pyramid UFO video. That's probably Jupiter and some stars because it matches exactly where Jupiter and some stars were on that day. They don't show up as sharp triangles because the cameraman has not zoomed in yet. But they look the same shape as the supposed flashing pyramid does when it first arrives. There's some points of light in the video that sometimes look like stars. They are not stars. They are random noise, stray electrons in the image intensifier tube. They change from frame to frame. They don't show up as triangles as they form in the image intensifier tube, which is behind the iris, so they are not affected by it. I first saw this video 1 week ago, on April the 8th. I instantly realized it looked like a plane from the flashing lights, and quickly figured out that bokeh was the best explanation for the triangular lights. But I had no evidence, and no night vision binocular, and couldn't find a night vision binocular that had a triangular iris. So I tried duplicating it by taping a triangular hole in the front of my regular camera. This gave nice triangles for lights and stars when out of focus. I also found that taping holes in the front of night vision binoculars was actually something people did, although I couldn't find any triangular shapes. Then, a breakthrough. Jesse3959 on Metabunk took a look at his night vision binocular and discovered, hey, it has a triangular iris. I asked him for some footage of lights and stars and he delivered. Then using a styrofoam holder, he recorded the output with his phone. He changed the focus, and that changed the size of the triangles. And when he filmed the darker sky, you get exactly the same faint stars and sparkly noise that you do in the pyramid UFO video. Then, another breakthrough. A friend told me he had a military-style PVS-14 night vision binocular. He taped a triangular hole on the front and got just the same results as with the triangular iris. Lights took on a triangular shape that changed with focus. Stars looked like the faint objects in the pyramid UFO video, and we get the exact same noise. This PVS-14 footage also shows a circular glare around the triangular bokeh, something that appears in the pyramid UFO footage and that people thought was evidence that it was actually triangular shaped. But it's not. The circular glare is just spreading light. It happens all through the camera so it looks round and even. The triangle is a different thing, only affected by the front iris or lens cover, so the triangle and circle are independent. So why couldn't the Navy figure this out? Why did they confirm the videos were real? Why does it show up on a slide for the UAP task force described as an unknown unmanned aerial system at 700 feet? Well, the key thing here is that the task force investigates sightings that were initially unidentified. This includes examinations of incursions that are initially reported as UAP when the observer cannot immediately identify what he or she is observing. And I think that's what we're seeing here. These are some lights in the sky that a Navy observer filmed with an accidentally out-of-focus night vision binocular and a phone. Initially, they were unidentified. Maybe they still are. Maybe some were Chinese drones at 700 feet. Maybe someone misidentified planes heading for Los Angeles. But one thing is pretty clear. They were not pyramids.
I couldn't help at one point in my discussions privately with General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children, wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together. Well, I don't suppose we can wait for some alien race to come down and threaten us, but I think that between us we can bring about that realization. In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war? I think maybe I'd answer it this way. I keep, in my frustration sometimes, you know, actually, if you count some of the things going on in smaller countries and all, there have been about 114 wars since World War II. But I've often wondered, what if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet? Wouldn't we all of a sudden find that we didn't have any differences between us at all? We were all human beings, citizens of the world, and wouldn't we come together to fight that particular threat?